to the Zen Forum, where we inspire and empower you to achieve holistic success. In collaboration with Indonesia Economic Forum and the Zen Monk, we are redefining success beyond money, focusing on true well-being, purpose, and balance. Through powerful conversations, we are igniting growth and sparking change in both your personal and professional life, one episode at a time. Welcome to another episode of the Zen Forum, you guys. Today I have a very special guest whose work is changing and empowering lives with special needs. And her name is Reshma Wijaya. She is the founder of Self-advocacy Learning Center. And her story is deeply personal. And so we're here to share what she's been through and also to be able to reach more lives that may not even know that this opportunity exists. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Reshma.
Thank you as well, Divya.
Thank you. So let's get started. Let's get started from the beginning, right? For anyone who may not know you yet, what brought you here? What led you to start Self-advocacy Learning Center? Was it a choice or was it life that brought you there?
Actually, that's a very interesting question, Divya. Because from young, actually, I was exposed to special needs. So I have two individuals, I have two cousins in my family who have special needs.
Alright.
And they were born, from birth as such. And I grew up with them. So during my childhood time and as well as during my teenage life, so I grew up with them. And I actually took care of my cousin who has cerebral palsy from young. And I never found her different, But yeah, definitely the only thing I used to say to myself, because I saw her parents' fears, which was like, it's so difficult to give birth to a child who has special needs and, they worry of what's going to happen to their child when they're no more.
Yeah.
So with that, I always said to myself that, yes, it's lovely, being with her, I was changing her diapers, she was 15 years old, I was changing her diapers, I was playing with her, making her walk, being with her. And I cherish all those moments, but seeing that fear, that was one thing that, stayed in my memory. And with that memory I carried, I always said to myself that if ever I have a special needs child, it would be best for God to decide, what would the future be? And fast forward 10 years from that moment that I actually said that to myself, which was I was 15 years of age. And 10 years old, when I was 26, 27, I gave birth to Cheryl, my second child.
Second, okay.
Yeah, my second child. And that was then that I didn't know. I didn't know that I was carrying Cheryl. And, I went to top-notch doctors and, they did the 4D scan and, we did all the tests possible, but still they could not detect.
Oh, wow.
That I was carrying a child with Down syndrome, It's a genetic chromosomal disorder.
Yeah.
So then I didn't know. Nobody knew about it, and when I delivered, and that was the moment when I held her in my hands, and that was the moment when I actually said to myself, oh my God, I have a daughter who's Down syndrome, because I've been dealing with special needs children from young, and as well as I was working, as a teacher, and I always had, Down syndrome children, autistic children in my classroom, so I always knew, I was very familiar with them. So yes, and I guess God didn't want me to know, and it was all unplanned, and God gave me the biggest, the most beautiful gift in this whole world. So yeah.
That's so beautiful. Wow, you mentioned a lot of things here that I wanted to touch up as well, and one of the things that you mentioned was God didn't want you to know, right?
Yeah.
And it's incredible because like in this day and age, you have all these tests and you know, you have all this like, oh, you know, if someone's like this, someone's like that. So that was what I wanted to ask you, you know, and be like, it's interesting that it was like shadowed.
Yeah, it was really shadowed. Yeah, it was just, yeah. So that was the beginning of my journey, the beginning of Saraswati Learning Center as well.
How did you feel during those moments? As much as I think it may, well, it's not, I wouldn't be assuming how you would feel because like, yes, you may have been surrounded or familiar with children who may have these needs, but having to go through that yourself, that's your, you know, responsibility at the end of the day, you know, you feel like that's your child compared to maybe like, as a student and teacher, it's a different,
of course, it's
dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So how did you feel when you experienced that? Like, you know, what were the fears that you had experienced? What were the emotions that went through?
You know what? All mothers are the same. So we're so excited, you know, the moment we know we're pregnant, we carry our baby, you know, and we're like, you know, nurturing our baby all the time, eating properly, resting well. Of course, sometimes we want to do it, you know, some things out of the box, you know, to be adventurous and things like that. But at the end of the day, we're longing forward for this day where, you know, we can hold our child, we can hold our baby. We can't wait, you know, when our baby comes into life, you know, and guess that first air, right? As all other mothers, I'm also like that. So, you know, I was very eager. But what happened was that when I held Cheryl, you know, I was shocked. For that moment, I really went blank because I was like, you used a good word, Divya, responsibility. So that responsibility backfired at me. It was like, how am I going to be this responsible mother for my daughter? Can I be that mother? You know, my life is shattered. Like, you know, so many questions. Why, God, did you give me this big responsibility? Why? Why me? You know? And of course, with those questions, you know, I went into denial, I went into depression, and I actually moved away from my daughter. I did seek help for her. I did go to Singapore. I did get, you know, good doctors on board and, you know, went for physiotherapy, went for speech therapy, and, you know, name all the therapies. I did it for her. But however, there was no connection. It was like I was depressed. I was questioning why, but simultaneously, I was also blaming myself. Like, it's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. So, you know, that self-blame, that self-guilt, and, you know, it was just a vicious cycle that put me away from her. But nevertheless, it's a journey, right? So, it took me 5 years.
Okay.
I was in that turmoil, you know, in the hurricane, you know, it just non-stop thinking and, you know, moving away, being in my own world. And but so it took me 5 years. Then after that, I broke down and that was the time when I actually realized that what am I doing? You know, what am I doing? Get a grip of myself. And she's beautiful. I mean, all children are a gift from God, and you are excited. She's your baby, you know. She's no one else's baby. She's your baby, and nothing has changed. She's still your baby at the end of the day. And she doesn't blame you for anything. What are you blaming yourself for? So
wow, that's powerful.
So when I actually, you know, starting to see her from a different perspective, so that was when my eyes actually opened.
At which point did you feel that shift from seeing this as a challenge to embracing something that's like a meaningful journey?
Actually, I would say that question is so deep, Divya, because you're saying that when the self-realization happened that it's such a meaningful journey, right? Cheryl gifted me this meaningful journey. It happened way before.
Okay.
Way after, sorry. Okay. Way after I gave birth to her, and even after me coming out from depression. It just happened, I would say, 5 years ago.
Wow.
So I would just say, yeah, I would say that.
How long has Saraswati Learning Center been established, and what actually happens there? Because you did mention that you went to all the therapy, speech therapy, doctors, and everything.
Yeah.
So what made you feel like I want to start my own? What happens in there as well?
Yeah. So, when I gave birth to her, I looked around here, and actually, first of all, the doctors in Jakarta was not able to diagnose that she has Down syndrome. Okay.
Oh, after birth?
After birth, yeah. So I'm talking about all the top-notch doctors. So at 2 months, when I could actually travel and bring her, so I was suggested to bring her to Singapore. So when I brought her to Singapore, then there they did the checkup and everything, and then that was when they found out that there was a chromosomal disorder, which is an extra chromosome in number 21, right? So ever since then, they gave me the support system. They counseled me and they educated me, the characteristics, the symptoms, and the abilities, or even the struggles, of what a typical Down syndrome child would go through, and what I should be prepared of as well. So that counseling really helped as well. And then they guided me, what therapy would be needed, and, to start directly. And that really, really helped me. So I kept on going back and forth to Singapore, on a monthly basis, and would come home and do the activities with her. So that went on until she was 3 years of age. Fast forward then, I found some therapy centers in Jakarta and I went for it. And because I was accompanying her, I never felt that, it was very impactful.
Okay.
Yeah, so the therapy that was given was not as impactful and as knowledgeable for me as what it was when I was in Singapore. So here what I'm talking about is 15 years ago. Okay, yeah, and then I did find a center that provided English services, so therapy in English, but they were charging a lot. They were charging like $85, $95 for 45 minutes to 1 hour.
Wow.
So yeah, that raised a question, for me and my husband, what would happen to the children actually who didn't have, whose parents didn't have this amount of money, what would happen to their future? So that gave me one reason to motivate myself, to open Saraswati Learning Center. But not only that as well, Cheryl was going to a Montessori school, right? So she was growing there, but the school also did share with us that, this is what we can do. And I love that honesty. And with that honesty, I was open to search for other schools. But she was rejected in other school system as well. And I didn't want to put her into a special needs school because I felt that her ability was more than what I saw, actually. So then, since I couldn't find one that fitted her, that was when I opened Saraswati Learning Center.
You created one that fitted her.
Yeah, so I created one. So the whole idea was actually for Cheryl, right? But what happened was that, and she's diagnosed with Down syndrome, but what happened was that I then received parents, who have children with autism, with ADHD, with sensory processing disorder, with cerebral palsy, and majority of their cases were that, schools had already rejected them. So, and I didn't have the heart at that moment, I didn't have the heart to actually reject them. So that was when I said, okay, as I said, it was all unplanned and I welcomed everything and I trusted the process. And yes, so that was how SLC came about.
I love that. Yeah. Trusting the process and just welcoming. That is so important because we genuinely fight what God gives you or what life, whatever unfolds. And that's probably one of the most hardest and liberating thing that you can do is that acceptance and letting it flow. Because that's the only way you can actually surrender to what's in front of you.
Correct. So yes, I guess surrendering, you need to have a plan of action, of course, right? At the same time. So as I accepted, students from different diagnoses, and different abilities. Maybe their abilities will vary, right? So no one individual is the same. So that made it really challenging. And with that, so when I opened Saraswati, Cheryl was 7 years old, and now Cheryl is 15, turning 16 this year.
Wow.
So along this period of time, I would say that because I trusted the process and I welcomed every obstacle, every victory, every struggle, everything, every joy, I guess that's what's made us grow to this much.
That's amazing. That's so powerful. So you do personalized education for each student.
Yes.
So at anyone between the ages of infancy till over 18 as well can come for special skills, education, learning. Okay, that's amazing. So what are some of the challenges that you face right now about children with special needs and the society or the country that we're living in?
So definitely a lot of parents would agree to the word called stigma. Okay. Stigma can mean different things for different parents, and how deep it can go also will differ. Stigma in the sense of, sometimes we take our children out for a movie, sometimes we take our children out to the park, but a child has difficulty in expressing their needs. May it be their need to get our attention, or even their need for us to love them, or even their need for movement, to regulate. Special need children have difficulty in producing, expressing their verbal output. So, but common people in our society would not understand this because they never grew with special need children in their classroom or in their family. I think most probably in their classroom during their school time. And because they were not exposed to this, hence when they see one, they tend to stare, or some people would tend to judge, and they would say, okay, this child looks weird, oh, he's weird, he's crazy, and these labels hurts parents a lot,
of course,
because the special need children also want to socialize, but they don't know how. And maybe they push the other child, or maybe they approach too close, that they don't know the personal boundary, or maybe they touch, in an overwhelming manner. So all of this actually is normal, We would see all these things in our children who are 3 years below, or even in their 4 years old, 5 years old. We would see them between 3 to 5. The children are also trying to explore on how to express themselves and how to, how to communicate their wants, their needs. But when we see a 3 to 5 year old, it's also normal for individuals to also judge them. You see, sadly. But when it comes to special needs, they may be 15, they may be 17, they may be 20, but their needs may be of a younger child, because their developmental age is actually younger, right? Not according to their actual age, their chronological age, right? So, having the stigma as an issue, and parents also feel sad seeing how community actually reacts to their child. This is the biggest struggle, because this then also causes a ripple effect where the parents eventually also pressurizes the school system, pressurizes the therapy system, and actually says that, I want my child to be healed, I want my child to be normal, when can my child have friends, because they then have that desire for the child to be part of the community, which is correct as well. we must have the desire for our child to be integrated in the community. However, we need to know that what way can the child be integrated and how best to support the child at the same time.
Yeah.
So I would look at this like as a global thing, as a global thing where everybody plays their role, and then only the globe can turn around.
I'm glad you touched up on that because, what do you think would help make this a lot more, like you mentioned, like they're not exposed to these things, right?
No.
So it's not exactly like familiar. So it's like anything that's different, they end up make you feel like there's something wrong with being different. So how can we as society or as individuals as a whole play a part in actually helping this? Because a lot of parents maybe are reluctant to send their kids to school, and special needs, they feel like, why do I need to send them to special needs? But at the same time, they're being rejected in normal school. How can we find a way to integrate them in society, make this a lot much easier for anyone who's going through this?
Yeah. So actually, it's very important for parents to know that for social skills, we can integrate the special needs children into the mainstream schools, or even into social community. We can do that. But however, in terms of education, we actually need to see first, does the school support that? Sometimes we parents, we have the desire that, and we have this belief that when we put our special need child into a normal setting, okay, that means with mainstream children, or and they socialize, they have social events, with mainstream children, then, or with individuals, then they become more normal. So it can normalize their diagnosis. You understand? They will look less weirder.
Got it.
Okay, because they're actually imitating the mainstreamers. Yeah. Okay. But however, you need to find that balance, okay? The child needs to be equipped with the skills, like, you need to equip them with the cognitive skills, which is the mathematical skills, the language skills. You need to equip them with the social skills, with the emotional skills, and even with the language skills. So you need to equip them in all of this, okay? Nevertheless, you also, as you're equipping them with all the skills, right? So you also then provide the social space where you've already equipped the child. The child knows how to regulate, how to communicate, little bit of what the child needs and wants, how to regulate when the child is not comfortable in that scenario. Once the child is equipped, right, just 30%, you can already start to integrate. And you can integrate it slowly so that the child is safe and the other children are also safe. You see, so what I mean by safe is that this child also then does not use injurious behaviors on himself or on others, or even destroying the environment. And the other mainstreamers also feel like they also then have a positive experience of special needs. So you see, there needs to be people to supervise this this interaction at the same time. And again, for parents to know that, can I get this skills in, inclusive school or, a non-inclusive school? It's a big question mark again. You need to know whether the school does have a system, in doing an assessment, in developing your child's profile, in identifying that, these are the needs and these are his abilities, and developing a customized, individualized educational plan, which is modified and accommodated. It's not just a plan, but you need to modify it and you need to accommodate it for the child,
right?
So that the child can be successful.
It's very highly personalized.
So
you want to find places that are able to personalize their education for that kid.
Correct.
So
to give them the skill.
To give them the skills. It's rather not exactly whether it's a special needs school or a mainstream school. It's just understanding that there has to be education for them that allows to support both of them, like the special needs part of it, and then get into the social bit of it, but not enter into a social school like immediately without them knowing what to do about it. That could cause some trauma or something.
Correct. Because at the end of the day, if the child, the special needs child, goes into a mainstream school just for the goal, to socialize, then what's going to happen along with time regarding his own skill? Because his own skill is going to make him a functional individual. He needs to know money, he needs to know time, he needs to know numbers, right? So, and also he needs to be able to read, to write. It's a different ball game if your child is non-verbal. Then your child has to be able to use the AAC,
Right.
And also communicate using that. But numbers, money, everything can be taught.
Yeah.
And this is only this can only be taught by a professional who has the skill on how to modify the curriculum. So the curriculum may say that the child will be able to listen to this whole paragraph. But now, as a special needs educator, the educator will be able to dissect this, and to break it down. The child will be able to, let's say this child's ability is such, will be able to read only one sentence or one word first, and then 2 words, and then 3 words, and then 4 words. And how do you modify it? You modify it, let's say, with the auditory, so the child is going to listen first to a pre-recorded sentence, and then how will you accommodate it? The child will listen, see, and say. So it's very specialized, it's very detailed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That clarifies a lot. At least that would help parents decide what's best for them.
Correct.
So you were talking about stigma just now, and I wonder, and most parents would wonder, how would you answer if your child ever asked you, Mom, why am I being treated differently? Is there something wrong with me?
Yeah, actually that's a very good question. So you're asking me how should a mother reply?
So of course, first, whether your daughter has ever felt that way and asked, and how did you navigate that? And how did she feel, and how did you help her feel better about it?
Yeah. See, my daughter has never asked me that question.
Okay.
The one question my daughter asks me is always Mama, why can't I have a boyfriend? Mama, I want to have a boyfriend.
Love it.
If you're asking me about my daughter, that's the question that she's
so
asked
cute.
me,
Okay. Yeah.
And yes, definitely in school, we have one program which is called, self-advocacy. So, they're advocating regarding themselves.
Okay.
So here, when they reach an age of 15 years, 15 years of age, so we actually educate them regarding their diagnosis.
Okay.
With the parents' consent, of course.
Okay.
Because some children are aware of their diagnosis and some children are just happy the way they are.
Okay.
Special needs children are very different. Some have that curiosity, what's wrong with me? Okay, the ones who are more aware. The less aware ones, no.
Okay.
So for Cheryl and for others, at the age of 15, they're exposed to self-advocacy where they can learn about who they are, why, for Cheryl, why she and her friends look alike, with the eyes and then with the flat nose and, with the neck or with the body and also with their palms. So these are some things that we educate them, so they have an extra chromosome in number 21 and, that's why they're so special. They have other friends who look alike like them. We all look different, but they look so alike.
Yeah.
So that's how we put it in a positive way.
Okay.
And also we tell them what's the good part about you is you're so cuddly.
Okay.
You'll never grow old. Look at your skin, it's so soft, it's babyish. You're lucky I don't have that skin.
Okay.
And your smile, your hugs are amazing. It's just the warmest hug. So we share with them regarding their plus points, and what they're great at, and yeah, of course, we share with them their struggles, which we all have our struggles. So when we're actually teaching them, I share with them this is my struggle. I'm not good in this, but you are good in this. See, and I am not good in this, but you are also not good in this. So, for example, I may be stage fright, right? Going up on stage, I may be stage fright, to talk alone like that, and I tell them that's my limitation,
Okay.
That's what I struggle in, what your struggles are, maybe for another person to understand what you want to say, because children with Down syndrome, they have articulation issues, so it's not so clear sometimes how they speak, but nevertheless, you can always type. So we also then come up with strategies on how to actually make our struggles our challenge, and we turn it into a game. So when we turn it into a game and then we laugh about it, so it becomes a very, you know, it becomes a good memory, and it becomes them, and it's very light.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way of making people feel like, yeah, the world may make you feel different, but actually we're all different and we're all the same in a similar way. So you're trying to highlight that difference and that similarity in a different way.
Correct.
That's beautiful, and that's very important for anyone to, like, that's like a common question, because people will make you feel like there's something wrong with me, there's something different, and it's good to have that answer, like, okay, you know, this is how I have to navigate this if my child ever asks or feels this way.
Yeah, and something that just pop up in my mind as well, you know, Divya, was that when we played this game, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And, you know, the children could help me as well. So when they didn't know what to do, we can also help them. And in this process also they learn, like, getting help is fine. We don't need to be, you know, we don't need to feel like a failure, and we don't need to feel like something is wrong with us, like there's a defect in us, just because we ask for help.
Beautiful, very powerful. I love that. So this is another controversial question, but it's a very important one to have and ask. So in this day and age, right, we're able to medically, like, whatever happened to you was a shadow, but by right, there's some people actually know. And a lot of parents are left with a very, very difficult choice, whether to continue or terminate this pregnancy. Now, the thing is, there's no right or wrong here. At the end of the day, this is not about debating pro-choice or pro-life. You have your opinions, great. But the idea is ultimately who needs to decide. They're the ones who are going to go through this experience.
Of course.
And so they're the ones who have to live with their decision irrespective. So again, I believe, there's no right or wrong, because ultimately they're both a challenge. Like, living with that decision at the end of the day, until you are able to, you know, like, you are able to turn your challenge into a meaningful journey. But at that point, not many people are able to see it as that yet, at least. So anyone who's at the edge right now, any parents at the edge of, like, making this decision, what would you be able to say to them to help them just ease that decision?
Had I known that I had a Down syndrome child, I would have terminated my pregnancy. Because I did not know, and God surprised me. It was all unplanned. And I got Cheryl. I would say she's the most beautiful gift, because she changed my life. She made me develop empathy. She helped me open my eyes to a different world, to see life in a more, with a different angle, you know. You wouldn't see the glass half empty, but you would see the glass half full.
That's beautiful.
And you would celebrate every milestone, which means that, you know,
that's so sweet.
Everything is appreciated. Not that you reach your goal and you're done in life, but everything is appreciated. And yes, I could say many more, you know, many more transformative moments in my life. But that wouldn't change the message that I would give across, actually, for parents out there. Because parents carry their own journey, and they might have had different experiences from young. And they would be the best decision maker of this, you know. Basically, they're standing in this river. It's between left and right. You know, they don't know where to go, to keep or not to keep, right? But the one thing that I would want to share with them is that only if you are willing to explore, to go through this adventure of life and experience the up and downs, and enjoy the transformation that you go through, embrace it then. But if you feel that, you know, it's going to be a headache for you, and it's going to be the toughest, everything is tough. Even if when you deliver your first child, your second child, it's a journey. Nothing is that easy, you know. Motherhood is difficult in general. It's difficult. There's no right, there's no wrong. But if you feel that, you know, you're not ready for it, but you will never be ready as well, being a mother for any child that you have, it's your call. it's definitely your call. If your guilt is going to eat you up, if you've always going to feel like you're a failure, then no. But if you're ready to have this child, if you want to have this child, I would suggest you to go meet a counselor, to go for counseling or go meet a therapist, and actually decide what you would want to do.
Wow.
And then only decide that, which course you want to take in life without regrets.
Wow. That is so powerful. Thank you so much for being so raw.
Thank you.
And honest about it, because ultimately, you gave the two options and the reality of both options.
Yeah.
And it's, again, at the end of the day, their choice. And I like that you are able to be considerate for the parents and their capability, because ultimately, if they're not able to, it's also the child that suffers.
Yeah.
So it's like seeing that capacity that you have and deciding from there.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you
So,
as well.
one more question before we get to the game of the day. If you could look back to the first time that you were going through the diagnosis to now, and what would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself about your journey and anybody else who's probably in the situation right now? What advice would you give them?
You mean like from the moment I found out Cheryl
From
had
the
Down
moment you
syndrome?
found out, yes, from the moment you found out, what did you know about yourself or about the journey now that can be an advice for anybody who's going through this situation right now?
My advice would be live like it's your last day. Always your last day. So you know what? You will always embrace your child and you will always live with no regrets. Because all children are the same and there's no one different from the other.
Wow, that's beautiful.
That's it.
That's really, really beautiful. That's going to help a lot of people just feel lighter. Like there is support, there is an answer, like this is not the end of it all. What you did mention before, actually, it's just some question popped in my head. You did mention that a lot of parents are scared of what's going to happen to them what's going to happen to the child when they're not there. So what do you have to say about that? How do you feel a lot more, courageous or okay with that idea for your daughter?
How did I make myself have more courage with my daughter?
About the idea that one day you won't be there.
Yeah.
She'll have to be independent in her own life in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I live like every day is going to be my last day and I live with no regrets. Mm-hmm. So what I can do every day for my daughter in building her closer to her independence, that's what I do, and I do every day to bring her closer. So my message for parents as well who have children, when they've just given birth, or even when you see your child is 15, 16 years old, that's when parents actually have this question, what's their future going to be like? We're not going to live long. It happens usually during this time. I would say that, focus in the skill that your child has, focus in that, and find the right support that you can for your child today, and spend as much time as you can with your child today. And if they have sibling, educate your sibling and create that family togetherness together as well, create that family bond. Because when you're no more there, then they are there. But if there are no siblings, then we have to equip them. And there are social services out there who accept children in the boarding school, and they will take care of them.
That's awesome.
And there's nothing to worry.
There are resources.
There are resources.
There are support. There are resources.
Yeah. Okay. But do what you can do today to make her as independent as possible. Don't let the future fear eat you up. That's going to be the biggest obstacle, because then you won't be doing anything for your child, right? So do what you can today, and that's going to shape her future or his future.
That's That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well.
So we have the game of the day today.
Okay, sure.
Before the end. And the game of the day today is 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
So you'll say 3 statements and then I'll choose which one's the lie and vice versa. And we'll probably go like maybe 2 or 3 rounds with that. Want to start or should I start?
You can start.
Okay.
I'm not good in lying. It's just warning you way ahead.
I can't wait to see if you have a tell. My truths and lies will be, number 1, I do not like chocolate.
Okay.
I had 2 dogs that I had to give away.
Okay.
And the third one is I do not like to eat rice.
Okay. I think your first one
Is the lie or the truth?
is a lie.
It's the truth. Yeah, I do not like chocolate. I rarely have it. But I eat rice. Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
So I love to dance. I love to hike, and I love to go to the spa.
Oh, that's hard. The lie is the hike?
No,
Don't tell me it's a spa.
it's a spa.
You know, I had a feeling to say spa, but why wouldn't you like spa? You don't like spas?
It's too long.
Oh wow! I just die in like spas. I just love it. The longer, the better. That's nice. I got to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, me too.
Now another one would be, let's see. I studied in Singapore. I also studied in the US. I also studied in Europe.
Okay. I think the third one is
I think that was a tell. That was a tell. Yeah. I was like, I should have paused a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Okay. I do not like crabs. I do not like sweets, and I do not like dark spaces. Dark space, yeah.
The third one?
It's just don't do anything. Yeah, I don't like dark spaces.
Dark
You're right. Yeah.
Because I was like, it'd be interesting for someone to like dark spaces. I wanted to talk to you about that. Like, what is dark space? Yeah, okay. Amazing. Yeah. I got to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you
time,
as well.
for your energy, for your space and presence. Honestly, for anybody who's just been on edge, anyone who feels they're alone, full of fear, like as if it is the end of the world for them or their child, now you know that it's not. Now you know that there is resources, there is support, there is help, there are answers out there, and you're not alone. And so if you need any more resources, any more help, any more knowledge, you know where to find us. Mainly Reshma who's ready to just let you know what you gotta know and be as raw as possible and tell you everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Till then, stay mindful, stay grateful, stay present, and live like it's your last day. Thanks, guys. See you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.